Okay, good evening. Thank you for joining us for Photo Live, the first in a season of live streamed conversations about the social and cultural role photography plays in our everyday lives. My name is Elias Redstone. I'm the Artistic Director of Photo 2021 International Festival of Photography. The truth is the theme for the festival, which was supposed to launch today, but due to the global health crisis, it will now take place in Melbourne and regional Victoria in February 2021. In the lead up, we will start exploring the complex relationship between the photography and the truth through Photo Live and other digital programs over the coming months. I'm currently here in my home in Melbourne's inner north and would like to acknowledge the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation as the traditional owners of this land. I pay my deep respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. I'm joined today from Copenhagen by Photo 2021 artist, Sara Galbiati, Peter Hallis Eriksson, who's with the salmon pink background there, and Tobias Selnes Markussen, aka Sara, Peter, and Tobias. Working together as a collective for 5 years, Sara, Peter, and Tobias document subject matters that revolve around disputed interpretations of reality. From people's belief in UFOs to the theory that we're all living in a matrix-style digital simulation. And it definitely feels like it these days. Throughout their projects, Sara, Peter, and Tobias share and collaborate on every aspect of the process, from researching, interviewing, and shooting pictures to editing the final photos and text. As a loose schedule, we'll have a conversation for about 30 minutes, and then we'll open up to questions from people watching this live on Facebook. If you are watching, feel free to post your questions and comments at any time during the talk, and we'll get through a selection of these at the end. So let's start at the beginning. You all studied photojournalism at the Danish School of Media and Journalism and went on to develop your own solo careers. Why did you decide to start working together?
I think the subject of looking at UFOs and believing UFOs has been lying around for a couple of years at that time. And I think it was something that we shared an interest in, and it became a natural conversation between the three of us. And at some point it just led us to asking each other the question whether it could be interesting to try to do something together and try to look at that subject together. And it started as an experiment, whether this was possible or not, and we just kind of threw ourselves out there and went to the States to mainly try to look at the subject and see if it could be possible to do something about the subject, whether it would be possible to go through with it, and we just ended up doing it, and it just felt really natural and inspiring to be working together suddenly after all these years of being on our own and doing our own stuff and educating ourselves on our own and just all the time being a solo artist. It was a revelation to suddenly be a part of a trio instead, and gaining so much from working with each other instead of just being on our own.
And did you share a studio beforehand, or was it?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So you're in the same space doing your own projects?
Yeah, for 5
So
years.
we were in the same space, helping each other out with assignments, projects we did, but never touching each other's photographs, never editing each other's, having hands on each other's work. So we thought that could be a great benefit in trying to shift your material around, trying to have a more open process. Why do the people who press the shutter have to be the one who does the Photoshop, vice versa? So we tried to integrate as deep as we could in each other's processes to have a work with the first book and with the second work we're doing now that has been in the hands of all three of us, and therefore there is much more, I think, quality in the decisions that's been done because they have been done by 3 people every time.
Now, your first project that you've mentioned, where you came together to talk about, to look at UFOs and people believing in extraterrestrial life, is known as Phenomena, and it was published as a book that I have here, and also exhibited at in many countries around the world, launching at the Photography Festival in Arles in 2016,
yeah,
I believe.
Yes.
And it's a huge project. I mean, this is you kind of dip your toes into working together on something that is, it's phenomenal. It's incredibly impressive amount of research. And from the start, and we'll see in your current projects, from the start, you've always kind of been interested in this notion of belief and reality. And you interview all these people, you go to these sites in the American desert where people have either seen UFOs or have encountered extraterrestrial life in some way or another. And you interview these people, you photograph them in different ways. Can you tell me a bit about that process, and maybe even share some of the photos from that project as well, so that people can see how you come together as 3 separate people to create this one single project?
Mm-hmm. I can share some images from Phenomena, and we can talk while. This is one of the, so what we did with Phenomena were, after we kind of decided to do this project together, we were like, okay, let's set a date right away. Let's buy the plane tickets right away. And I think 3 months ahead or something. And then we just started into a very hectic research process. We knew we wanted to follow the route of kind of the UFO pilgrimages, if you can say that, from the aliens, or I'm talking like this happened, sorry, but there was the crash in Roswell and the aliens were transported to Area 51 in Nevada outside of Las Vegas. So we knew we wanted to go there. We kind of looked at what kind of spots we could visit. This is at Area 51. There's like a motel where you can stay, Little Alien. One of the first places we visited, and where we kind of used a whole film budget. we were very overwhelmed with the material. We knew that there was a story, but we kind of thought we had to dig it, that we really had to go there and really investigate, but it was just massive. The present was just massive. We thought it would be, you could never do this project in Europe. In Europe it would be. Mm-hmm.
Can you make the image large as you're talking to it? Because I think we can see the full, all the thumbnails at the moment.
Oh, you can only see thumbnails. Okay, just 1 second. They're like large on my screen. Let's see.
Perfect.
Okay, perfect.
So
Yeah.
one thing, before we go into other photos, I think one thing that's interesting to point out is you don't associate the actual photographs with any one of you, do you? You don't say, oh, this was taken by Tobias, or this was taken by Peter. It's just because part of the collective project.
It's always by the collective. We share the images, and we consider them part of all of us, even though some of them might be taken on trips where one been traveling by themselves. We still consider them part of the trio or the collective work, and we never tell each image. In our perspective, what matters is the work that we're doing together, and therefore we always put it out as a shared work.
And also it's because when we did the research, I might find a source for a portrait, and it might be Tobias who shoots the portrait, and it might be Peter who looked at the contact sheet and pointed out that image, and then it might be Tobias who edited the image. So there's many layers. It's taking the image is one, like selecting the right image after is one task, and editing and finding the subjects. And when we do research, put all things in a basket and kind of divide it, like, okay, this guy lives in this area. There's also this woman who lives in this area. So if you go there and shoot those two, I will, you know, kind of divide, or someone would come along as an assistant and, you know, maybe give pointers while you're shooting the portrait, like maybe you should try this and this. So it's collaborative. So you can't really point out like I have the
ownership.
I have the total ownership of this image, because it was a lot of circumstances leading up to that image ending on the wall or in the book.
And could you talk to this image that you have on screen at the moment? Is this a UFO museum?
Yeah, in Roswell. It was just protesters in front of the UFO museum in Roswell, and you know, they believe that there aren't any aliens. They believe like the only one who ever fell from the sky was Jesus. So it's just, there's many beliefs out there. So and you can see the sign of the UFO museum in the back. We also had a pastor saying that it is pointed out in the Bible that there were aliens, like they came in the clouds. And we have back, if we go back, this is a Native American. He says like they believed in space brothers in their religion always. So it's just to point at the bigger picture, the bigger universe, and the bigger beliefs, and not excluding anything.
I mean, you're tackling in this project and all your projects together subject matters that no one can actually prove. It's this murky area that is, you know, we've mentioned the word belief, but it's all about belief. It's all about just a faith or belief in that this thing exists. What do you think photography can bring to this kind of murky territory that is, you know, a mix of ideas and hearsay and mythology?
Well, I think it's the reason why we started this was we're all based in photojournalism, but always been disputed if, you know, what is like, can you document anything at all? Can you point out and point at a picture and say, this is what happened? You know, I took the picture, you can see for yourself. I was there. There's always tons of layers. So there's the photographer's viewpoint, there's the framing, there's the people who saw it from different aspects. And we thought that this discussion sometimes was kind of stupid, like all these rules and these contests, you have to swear by God that everything went by the book, or you can't really work in journalism. Of course, the rules are there for a reason, but we think sometimes it's from your perspective, you know, as an artist, is what you point at and what you look at and how you portray it. So we just more open, saying this is our perspective. This is you can see for yourself, but we're not putting into a tiny frame that says what you see here is the truth. This is what happened. We're pointing at like there's tons of things outside this that might look different, and we're totally open for the debate and the discussion, and not closing it into being factual or yes. We just thought it was like more funny to play around instead of instead of being like bounded by these rules. And we're totally open about that. We still call it documentary because it's based on research. It's based on people. We didn't see things, and but then it can still be debated if it's true or not.
Great. Okay. If you stop the screen share, I want to talk about how this project took on the life that it did. So I've already shown you this. This is the book, Phenomena. I feel like I'm in the home shopping channel here. It's a beautiful book, color images. And I came across this as a book in Arles in 2016. and I fell in love with the project. I think you guys may have been doing a book signing. And then later the same day, I went to see it at the old train station where it was being exhibited as part of the Emerging Photographers program. And it was a huge launch for, you know, a collective that no one had ever heard of. You didn't even have a name at the time.
No.
You were just calling yourselves Phenomena because that was the name of your project, if I remember correctly. And I think I saw you'd gone to the exhibition at the same time to check out a few things. And I went up and started talking to you and just introduced myself and wanted to find out more about the project. And I think one thing that really struck me was how this project came to be, how a year ago, there was no exhibition at Arles. There was no book published. There was the idea of a book. There was a dummy for a book. And I think it's actually quite an inspiring story for photographers out there trying to, you know, get a break. Could you kind of share that sort of history for the collective about what?
When we after we did the project, after we returned from the States with this overwhelming material that was I think surprised us, that we managed to do the project in just one trip. I think initially we thought that the first trip was going to be part research, part shooting a bit, maybe trying to see if we could really do it. Then we decided that the goal for us was to do a dummy and bring the dummy with us to Arles, which was in 2015, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we started the process of creating a book together with a design company. And initially we went to Arles in the summer of 2015 to do the portfolio reviews and simply just bring the book with us to Arles, sign up for as many reviews as possible with publishers with interesting parts, and show them the book.
So I'm just going to interrupt. For people who don't know what a portfolio review is, it is a program. It's very common at photography festivals. We'll be running them at Photo 2021, where photographers can sign up to show their portfolio, their project, to industry insiders. They can be curators or publishers or other artists and photographers, generally for feedback.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, to help them take a project to the next stage. But you guys went in kind of with a mission to let these people actually just know about your work.
Yeah, we wanted a publisher to publish the book. That was kind of our aim. And then we just looked at the list of interesting people. There's also festivals, and we're like, yeah, let's see if we can get this project exhibited or anything. And luckily we just met the right people at the portfolio review. And there was this kind of hype, and we actually went well prepared. We had 2 dummies, which were lucky, because actually the first day we talked to a guy who was like, can I keep this dummy? I want to show it to people. And we're like, okay, you can do that. We have an extra copy. And the other guy, he wanted the book as well, so he could show it to people. So the book was also outside in Arles somewhere, and not only at the portfolio review, but people were showing it actually. And that's how we got our gallery, because this guy went to East Wing and showed them the project, and the publishers on the Frère showed it to Sara. So the book kind of had its own life. We were trying to sell it at the portfolio review, but people was always also working for us, like showing it. So that ended up giving us a deal with André Frère to publish the book, and then having the book launched at Arles with the big exhibition the summer after. Yeah, so went really fast.
Great. And you got the dummy there as well as the actual published book?
Yeah, on the outside it's almost the same, but in the insides it's kind of.
You can see the end papers different.
Yeah, the end papers. Just one piece. I think maybe it's
the published one's shinier.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's the same.
But the book closes with a quote about the size of the universe. It says 5% of the observable universe consists of ordinary matter. The remaining 95% is dark matter, which humans haven't yet been able to see, detect, or comprehend. I think that's really beautiful, and it could be relatable to this world, this planet that we're on, probably as much as it is with the universe, about there's so much still for us to explore and understand and see. And I think that's a nice segue into your follow-up project that you're working on at the moment, your live project, which is called The Merge. Could one of you kind of explain the background to that and what that's about?
Should I show some images?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Let's share screen.
Peter, you can do that.
Yeah, the Merge, our new project, we're still we after Phenomena, we were actually at Unseen Photo Festival in Amsterdam this 2016. After we have had the show in France, in Arles, we started talking about what we should do next, and we were really fascinated with the development in artificial intelligence and this whole field where you start to give life to robots and also start to make people make the boundaries between reality and the virtual world is going to be is much more blurry. So we actually started digging into that, starting visiting labs around the world where they develop robots, where they develop simulations, and we think we also stumbled upon this theory that that because we can make perfect simulations, then it means that we could ourselves actually be living in a simulation right now. It's a theory put out by the Swedish professor at Oxford University called Nick Bostrom, and it's totally hyped within the tech world, this theory. So we were like, okay, the field is interesting for us. And conspiracy theory is very interesting for us because as photography, as you talk about, the relationship with photography and truth is extremely interesting. Like photography is still used as evidence material in courtrooms, and it has this quality of being a stamp of reality, but at the same time, it's of course extremely blurry. And what if this world isn't real? What if there is many layers of what is of reality? How does that affect photography then? What is it actually? Maybe photography is representation of the real, but if we don't know what the real is, then we thought it was really interesting to start to play with that. So it's a project that is based around the development in artificial intelligence, but has also, like, we want to ask the question, what is reality?
And it's an incredibly timely question to be asking as we're kind of sinking more and more into this digital realm in the last few weeks alone, as we are socially distancing from each other, but sort of connecting more and more through digital territory. Can you pop back that last image and can you tell us about this person? Because this is an image that, the project's in, it's still in developing. You've had some exhibitions of it. It's still in process. And this image is kind of, I feel like it's been there almost from the start. Can you tell us about her?
It's actually the first image. It's actually, we had a show in San Francisco with East Wing Gallery, and we decided to visually test if this project was possible. And there was this tech fair actually at the same time during the photo fair that we were at. So during mornings, I think, and late afternoons, we would go to the tech fair and photograph the fair. And one of the participants had this machine that he called it's supposed to get you into meditating fast. So it's kind of for the fast tech guy who doesn't have time to meditate. You can go into this machine and be in a meditative stage quickly using like lasers and impulses and sound and VR. So this was kind of, everybody wants a bite of the future, and everybody wants to develop the next big thing. And also manipulating your brain, like putting these impulses into your brain, which makes you relax. So this woman, she was standing in line waiting to try the machine. This was something you can test. So of course we waited for her to go into the machine, because we could see those two, like her being in that machine with the cat, the universe outfit would just add an extra layer. So it's totally documentary. She was just waiting in line to try the machine. We were waiting for her to sit in the chair to get this image. And we shoot everything on film, on old cameras. Went to that fair. Then we packed all our stuff, wanted to go to the next place. On the way, we saw something interesting in San Francisco, jumped out of the car, went across the street to see what was going on, came back, and all our equipment was stolen, like all our bags, all our cameras.
Oh.
It just smashed the window and stole everything. And we were like 10 minutes away from photographing the next subject. But luckily the rolls of film of that shoot was in another bag. But yeah, so she survived, but we had to rent new gear and continue. And then we came back to Denmark, looked at the material, and this was one of the images. There's like, okay, there's something here. Let's try this out. It's actually visual, because that was maybe the biggest question. Is this something you can turn into an interesting photo project? Because usually computers are boring, like people in front of a computer is boring. How do you combine what's inside, a computer, all the mechanical stuff, to what's outside in this world? How can you make that combination?
And I think that was, and it was, I remember I was lucky to see you at Unseen that year when you were thinking about this project. And it was the big question that you had, and we were talking about how do you visualize this idea? How do you visualize, a simulation? I think what we've seen in the years since is, as the project's developed, and this is a perfect image to illustrate it, is how you have been able to bring in an aesthetic and a visual to something that is both futuristic but also all around us and like omnipresent in our lives at the moment. Where is this taken, this photo?
It's taken in the University of Texas in Austin. Yeah, 6 months after or something, Peter, right? 6 months after San Francisco or something, right? I can't hear.
And this is a really global project in that.
Peter's on mute.
Yeah, he put his on mute.
He's on mute. Oh, Peter, you were on.
Yeah. So here, what is going on is in the robot lab in the Austin University in Texas. They are trying to make an artificial hand, and trying to make it able to grab things and to have impulses. And it's just interesting how we as humans, we of course want robots to be like us. So we just want to make a copy that is like as close to humans as possible. And of course that thing is interesting for us to look into, because it's, of course, this image is also reflecting the very famous image of Michelangelo, where God touches the hand of God grabs the hand of a human, and then, you know, this is of course to say who is gonna be superior, who's gonna be God in this game. Are we creating something that is gonna be superior to us? Or are we creating slaves to help with our needs? So that's also a really interesting debate with in robot technology, and with when we start to have this advanced entities.
And have you guys yourselves kind of come to some resolution for what you think about this kind of robotic, artificial intelligence, simulated existence that we may or may not be living in?
I think we can only debate what we're able to see, because I think we're probably not able to see most of what's going on. So what we're able to see is the more subtle, not simple robots, and more friendly robots. I'm sure there's things developing that are more scary than that hand.
Well, we'll talk about robots. Let's see the other robot. Let's see the robot with the three of you. Now, the project is truly global. This image, I think, was taken in South Korea.
Mm-hmm.
Is that correct? In Seoul?
Yeah, exactly.
And this is just behind the scenes. I don't think this is making it the final cut. But tell us about this robot. I actually don't know anything about it, so I'd love to hear.
Yeah, it's from Miratech in South Korea. Method 1 or 2, I can't remember. It's inspired by Transformers. This billionaire decided to make robots, kind of maybe starting out as he had the money, a boy dream or something, and he made this lab and made these huge robots. And what they're going to be used for is, he says it's going to be used for example for in Japan when there was this nuclear blast. So instead of sending out people to clean up, you can send that in robots. But anytime somebody develop a robot like that, people are scared that it's going to be used in warfare, or is it going to be something that we're going to use for good causes, or is it going to be something that's going to be used for control? So every time you look at a robot, I think people are still looking at it like, what are you going to use it for? There's this kind of fear that, can we actually control, as Peter said, can we control what we're developing? Or
I mean, this subject matter in equal parts kind of fascinating and terrifying.
exactly.
And I think it's probably a good place to leave the conversation. I've got a few questions that have come in on Facebook. So if you want to close the image, I can ask you some of these. So how do the three of you find the process of collaboration compared to when you were working on your own projects? Do you prefer one over the other?
Well, I can only talk for myself. I definitely prefer working together than working by myself.
Yeah.
The whole process of sharing everything and the communication that you have with the two others, and just being able to go into that process of sharing stuff and sharing ideas and doing the photography together, doing the editing together, just having an extra pair of eyes, everything you do is just something that is developing you as an artist all the time, and it's pushing you, and there's always going to be a little bit of part of competition between the three of you of doing the best thing you can do, and you're pushing each other towards being a better photographer, and you're always having that state of mind where you're focusing on the collective instead of yourself is liberating. I think it can be a frustrating process being a photographer, just always being on your own. and you shared with 2 other people, it's liberating.
I think with any creative process, if you can find the right people to collaborate with, it is so rewarding. And the fact that you have, I spent some time around you, or you have like an effortless way of being together that that allows projects like this to happen. It's incredibly ambitious work that it takes more than one person to deliver, but it takes the right people to be able to come together to make. Okay, I've got another question here. Actually, no, sorry, the other 2 haven't answered yet. Do you prefer one?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Otherwise, I think I would not be here. So yeah, of course I do. And also one thing I want to add to what Tobias said is, of course, we also use the capacity we have as a collective here to jump into projects that we couldn't do individually. So that is really exciting. I always thought that we should challenge photography, but I think we can take on some pretty difficult projects, challenging projects, because we are a trio to kind of see if we can crack that subject open. So it's that's an advantage, and that makes it much more interesting to work with photography, I think.
And how about you, Sara? Are you?
Yeah.
You in or out?
Yeah, I also like the aspect, just the visual aspect, and combining the 3, how we look at things, because some look at the book and they can't really tell who took which picture. For me, it's very obvious, but I like the visual combination of having different approaches to photography. We try just to stack our own images in piles, like these are the images Peter took, these are the images I took. And I think it's just more interesting when we combine them, because one has a more poetic view, one has a more direct view, one has a more, and I think it's in the combination, it really looks interesting. And you can see that it's more eyes looking at a subject from more angles, instead of just, a person wearing the same glasses, pointing the same spots as you always do. And we actually talked about keeping that, because in Phenomena, it was very obvious that we had like different ways of going through the project. And we're like, okay, let's not get too amassed. Let's not become Sara, Peter, Tobias, the photographer who looks alike. Let's keep our individual artistics and combine it, because that's where the interesting things happen, I think.
And I think the project is the richer for it.
Exactly.
Okay, I've got another question here. I'm curious to know what you imagine the next series to be, and if this is something you've yet considered.
The next project?
Yes.
Well, we did shake hands on 3 projects when we started. So, so there's another one coming up. Well, the next project, what we've been talking about so far, is do something about miracles. So we're going to stay within the
disputed,
undisputed, unknown, weird subject matter, and religion as well. I mean, belief systems again. Where does miracles show up in different religions and so on? There's a lot to look into. It's going
to be a belief trilogy.
Yeah.
When you're done with it. And for the record, can people still get a copy of Phenomena?
Yes, on my Flair's website.
The publisher's website, yeah.
Yeah.
Great. I would highly recommend it. It's one of my favorite photo books, and I've also gifted it to several people over the years. Okay, so I think that's all we have time for today. Thank you, Sarah, Peter, and Tobias for sharing so generously with us this evening. Thank you to our founding partners, Naomi Milgram, Bill Boness, and Mark Henry for their ongoing support. And a big thank you for everyone that's joined us to watch this Photo Live event live. Please join us again on Monday, everyone out there, but also you guys, to hear Eliza Hutchison talk about her commission for Photo 2021. Eliza has been granted exclusive access to the Parliament of Victoria, and she'll be in conversation with Photo 2021 producer Brendan McCleary. This time next week, artists Hoda Afshar and Adam Broomberg will be in conversation with each other. And also in the season, there'll be conversations with Christina de Middle, Hayley Miller-Baker, and Atong Atem. So thank you once more for joining us. And I would just like to wish everyone a wonderful evening and a good morning over there in Copenhagen. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.